Hello, Star Watchers. This is Moon speaking. Thank you so much for tuning in to our recap episode. We've had a few recap episodes before now, but there has been so much plot happening, and our last full recap was only book 6, and we're now on book 10, episode 65. So I thought it was about time that I caught you all up on everything that had happened. This is not, of course, entirely comprehensive. Some details have been left out. But if you haven't listened before and want to just tune right in at episode 65 or 66, this should catch you up on most of the important plot notes. In the description, I'm including some helpful links to some of the notes that characters have found in the past, as well as a transcript of this episode. If you've been here watching the stars with us for a while, then thank you so much. And if you're a new listener just tuning in, then please sit back, relax, and look up at the stars. I've heard they have a story to tell. Used to be a lonely place up here, but it's not so bad anymore. I'd like to thank Nick Van Claveren, Jules Price, Maelstrom Star, Cody, Mireille La Nuit, Max Denny, Beak, Tokudoku, Xbox Unofficial, Sky, Flowerfield, and Jace for their support on Ko-Fi. It means the world to us that you listen to our tale and that you help it continue. Check out Spare the Crying on Ko-Fi to support us and check out our rewards, like monthly bonus mini-sodes, embroidered patches, and handwritten letters from your favorite characters. And to those who've given us support so far, again, we thank you. It's been a long night. The stars shone and shine still. They've been telling their stories and we've been listening. There's so much to say. There's so much to remember. After the end of what was once a beautiful world, an event called the Downfall, or the Vengeance, denizens of the Feywilds and Celestial Plains, elementals, all beings generally known as the Fey, joined us on the material plane and created lands of safety amongst the corruption and aberrations overtaking the rest of the earth. These beings we call our guardians, and the cursed lands the oceans, and our protected places, islands. In exchange for their protection, the Fae asked for sacrifices and gifts, and the people give, no matter the price. It's better than drowning. It's always better than drowning. In the past 2 centuries or so, mankind has grown curious. Trains have begun to span the ley lines, thin, tenuous connections of safety that now stretch between islands and connect people who, until now, have never seen outside their borders. The most prevalent rail line company is Goodlove and Goodlove Rail Lines, owned by, well, Mr. Goodlove and Mr. Goodlove, respectively, in the north, in Phoenix Island. Their son, Henry Tempest Goodlove, wasn't interested in taking on the family business. He instead made his way on down to the island of somewhere, a desert oasis with the guardian referred to as the Devil. There he ran a little shop of curiosities, of found trinkets in the oceans. Trinkets aren't the only thing he picked up there, though. Like I said, these lands are cursed. And now, after spending so much time out there, so is he. One curse spreads over his body, slowly destroying him, revenge for tricking a Fae. He, you won't be surprised to hear, is one of our 5 fools. Then there's Oxalis Camphor. Ox grew up in the island of Nowhere, a small mining town not far from somewhere. He didn't have an easy time of it. His ma died young, his pa, the sheriff, was cruel, though by the way Ox tells it, his twin sister, Scarlet, was even crueler. They started out alright, but then life got meaner, and so did she. One day when their pa got real violent, she killed him dead with her gun, and she and Ox ran. They formed a crew together with a boy named N, who was sweet on Ox, and Ox was sweet on him. 3 of them, the Cliburn crew, caused plenty of trouble, until Scarlet killed N in a dare. Yeah, just a dare, and Ox's life truly fell apart. He went from jail, in and out, to prison, and only just escaped that place. And his sister still haunted him. Another fool. And then, well, I suppose you should hear about the Dawn Shepherds. Back up north, where the Goodlove headquarters sit pretty, is Phoenix Island. The capital, Dawning, is home to one of the finest organized diplomacy programs this world has ever seen. Under the watchful gaze of the Phoenix Guardian, the leader of this island, Taryn Nevane, organized the training of the Dawn Shepherds. This elite group of soldiers had something special about them thanks to the painful and dangerous trials they went through as youths. They carry the manifestations of their souls in the form of small gems worn as earrings, and can access their power through their blood. This magic grants special abilities and allows them to traverse the oceans without corruption, though such magic comes with painful side effects. It was a good group. Their leader, Rowan Sterling, was admired by the masses. He was tall and strong, and he could transform into a grand lion that was the fear of any enemy on the battlefield. Unlike most who chose to keep their soul close, Rowan's earring, his soul, his gem, was held by another, Virgil Flores, another one of our fools. Virgil wore Rowan's soul, and Rowan wore his, and it was a beautiful thing. But Virgil began our tale in destitution. You see, the Dawn Shepherds were no more. Rowan Sterling, years ago, in the chaos of a desperate fight, lost control and turned into his magnificent lion form, and then turned on his companions, and killed all the shepherds but Virgil Flores. Virgil, afraid of what punishment awaited Sterling, tried to set him free after his arrest, and, well, it was Virgil who was caught and exiled. He didn't know what happened to Sterling after that. For years, he wandered the oceans, alone. Then there's Kian. Kian Larnos was hatched on the sunny continent of Rusul, a place guarded by Eliok, the celestial of the sun. Yes, hatched, from a pearlescent egg, as all Aasimar are. They had a pleasant childhood as the Aasimar child of Eliok, though a bit lonely. He was sent off to schooling with the paladin and representative of the island, Kara Elia, along with his celestial patron, a young moon tender named Aelin, and the familiar they gifted them, a bird named Marigold. Kian was not terribly interested in becoming a representative like Kara, though. As soon as they could, they went off to explore the world on their own, much to Aelin's dismay. In his travels, he found a group called the Wandering Winds, renegades who helped people down on their luck and wanted to escape their islands and guardians. Kian helped them for a time and soon fell in love with their leader, Lachlan. Lachlan loved him right back. All was well until Kian was fatally attacked in the oceans and Lachlan saved him the only way he could. He bit into Kian's neck and drank his blood, and Kian awoke. Lachlan was a vampire. Perhaps now Kian was something of one too. Afraid, distraught, Kian ran. They were changed, but not entirely. Protected maybe by celestial blood, they floated somewhere between monster and not. Yes, poor, foolish Kian. And that will leave us with one more fool of these five, Kirit Passeri. But that'll come later, I think. So, do you remember how we started? 4 fools met in a tavern, like the start of so many stories. Oxalis Camphor and Henry Tempest Goodlove had a deal. You see, Henry had received a strange gift from Ox's estranged twin sister, Scar. It was a piece of his gun. It was a precious, rare sort of item. Henry said he'd give it right back after they hunt down that sister of his, down in the south, in the island of somewhere. But what'd this have to do with Henry? Why'd he care about Ox's sister? Why'd Henry decide to stay with him? Just to taunt him? Tease him? Because a Fae's curse traveled across his skin and he hoped to stumble upon a cure somehow? Or was it simply because he was lonely? Who knows? But he did. He stayed at his side. And they called on an expert, a man who had traveled the oceans for 2 years and lived. That's no small thing. You see, that man had been a part of the Dawn Shepherds before he was cast out. Yes, Virgil Flores, the ex-shepherd, now mercenary for hire, took the job. And then Kian. Well, it's like it was fate, isn't it? They were just working at that inn. A waiter, nothing more. a waiter with some mildly vampiric qualities, and that Asmar heritage they kept close to their chest, and that curious celestial patron, but still, in that inn, just a simple waiter. And they said, let me join. Just because. How like Kian. Though we didn't know that was just like Kian back then. But before they traveled, they needed some coin to fill each other's pockets. That's when Mela came into our tale. Mela's father, Nell, offered a reward for anyone brave enough to head out to the oceans and find her. She'd been missing for a few days. A few days is dangerous in these parts. And they found her. But she wasn't alone. She was found with a figure named Perry Vine. A strange creature, or a man, or neither, or perhaps both. He was out there with her, seeking a way to travel the world with her inventions as protection. But she was young and he was a warped thing, and the fools took her home whether she wanted it or not. To get to her, they took down the walls round Enosh over and over, to get in and out and in again. That may matter later on. Next, it was time to head down to somewhere. The coin would be enough to pay for entry, but that's once they get there. What about tickets? Henry told him, don't worry, he is Henry Tempest Goodlove of Goodlove and Goodlove Rail Line, and while he hasn't been working for his parents in the island of the Phoenix, he still has plenty of weight behind his name. Thing is, his ex works this line. An ex that he left at the altar, Maggie or Magdala. It was quite the scandal. Kian charmed him to get on that train sneaky back in the caboose, and it wasn't until they took off that Henry broke free of that charm. And he realized he still wanted the fancy ride. He is a Goodlove, after all. So he made his way up to the roof, to clamber up to the locomotive, and well, that's where they met me. Star watching was good that night. They often find me up there on the roof of the train. I like to look up. I like to see the sky. I like to tell stories. Sorry, let's get back to this one. Anyways, he made it to the locomotive and met with Maggie's crossbow. Lucky he's damn good with words and ended up with reprimands instead of injury. And they made it to somewhere. And did they find Scar there? No, not yet. But Kian, it turned out, had someone else to find. They're full of surprises, that Kian Linos. They explained that they'd been a part of the Wandering Winds, that nomadic group of not-so-legal heroes that hopped island from island to help out those in need, from beneath their guardians' noses. And he revealed the leader of that group was a vampire. And here's what Kian didn't know until then. Aelin, Kian's patron, wasn't so happy to find Kian and Lachlan falling in love. They let it happen, watching from afar with simmering, silent anger until, well, like I said, Lachlan bit Kian and Kian ran off, and that's how they met the fools. And while that was going on, Aelin took their revenge. Disguised as Kian, Aelin fooled Lachlan into getting cornered by the somewhere sheriff, and there he was placed in jail and had been left to rot and to try and fail to hate Kian. Or the one they believed was Kian, for what they'd done to him. And something strange to note. The day they got Lachlan caught, he was up on stage performing as he always wanted to do. And you know who was up there with him? Scarlet, Scar, Ox's sister. You think it's a coincidence? Anyways, unfortunate, ain't it? It's exactly what Aelin wanted. It hurt Lachlan real bad. But Kian was determined to help him get out. The fools met with a member of the Wandering Winds in somewhere. Her name is Ophelia. She's close with Kian and Lachlan's best friend. Henry called for his daddy to come help figure things out. The Goodloves are business-minded folk, he thought. Maybe they'd help. But the thing is, travel takes time. The fools tried making deals with the sheriff, but things were taking too long, and they were too hesitant, and they wanted Lachlan out before something terrible happened. He is a monster, after all. So, using wits and his familiar, Kian snuck a bag of holding into that cell and transported Lachlan out to freedom. Freedom, if you can call it that. Lachlan's face was known. a wanted man, a criminal and a vampire. And he had lived in that cell by feeding on anger at Kian, anger that he now knew was born of Aylin's cruel plans. So now, empty, heartbroken, he walked off, leaving behind Kian and Ophelia, also heartbroken. But he was out of the jail cell at least. Now the fools had a new problem. They'd freed poor Lachlan, but they'd already been in discussion with the sheriff. How were they to play it off like they had nothing to do with that jailbreak? Henry's daddy arrived, and they kept what they'd done a secret from him, and from the woman at their side, Nico. She'd once led the Dawn Shepherds and taught them what they knew, though she wasn't one herself. She had heard that Virgil Florish was accompanying Henry Goodlove and came to tell him what happened after he was cast out. She had tried to get Rowan Sterling out of Dawning. She was afraid of what may happen to him. And she failed. Somewhere in the oceans just outside the border, he lost control again. She recalled him returning to his lion form, and she recalled falling from a cliffside and little more. She was found barely alive days later. Rowan was gone. He is, she said, most likely, no longer alive. Together they mourned. And one night, while Ox was working in the dark hours, she crept down the stairs and held a knife to his throat. "I know who you are, and don't you dare hurt Flores," she threatened. Oxalis Camphor had no idea what the hell she was talking about. But business goes on, and they had to meet with the sheriff. Odd, though. When they met with her, nervous, she acted like nothing was wrong. Like Lachlan was exactly where she expected him to be. "Your boy's at Paradise Prison," she told them. "A facility for criminals where they work the fields to make Paradise tequila. But we're just holding this Lachlan there, and you can go ahead and fetch him." In exchange, she said she'd take the rights to the Goodlove rail line from somewhere to Dawning. The fools couldn't call her on her bluff without revealing what they'd done, so off to Paradise they went. It wasn't the smoothest journey. On the way through the oceans, a strange spring swallowed them whole. They saw a lake of stars, shining blindingly bright, and arose in a corner of the Feywilds, filled with old ruins and a crumbling dam. There they met a strange, starry-eyed Fey who'd been stealing souls, and told them it had to keep doing it until it could find a star. Find it that star, and its wish could be granted, and its home, a river that once stretched far across the southern continent, would be returned. It asked the fools to hand over their stars. But they didn't understand. What stars, they wondered. A lot of people have troubles finding stars. I would know. But they agreed to find the star for the Fae so it would stop its killing, without really knowing how. That poor creature must have known their promises were false. That night, Kian, at Virgil's insistence, allowed him to toss away the wooden stake he'd been carrying around with him. It's dangerous for vampires. Virgil tossed it into the water of that Fae. And the next day, as the fools emerged back from the waters to the desert, the Fae took that stake and attacked, vicious, and dragged Kian in. There was little the fools could do but march on and hope they could find help in Paradise. They did find a friendly face in Wiley Volt, the famed tattoo artist and prisoner with a close relationship with Ox. And of course, they got a couple tattoos. They also found young Beatrice Toivo. Yes, Toivo, of the Toivo family. That's Ophelia's family. She'd been tracking down the estranged Ophelia to invite her to her wedding. Ophelia had little interest in family connections, but she accepted her presence in exchange for the help she could offer. Wait, but what about Lachlan, you ask? Someone was there. Someone who looked just like him. "Here he is," the guards said. "Here's your friend." The fools accompanied that presence out the doors and into the desert. They let him head off alone and never learned exactly who he was. They still don't know. They had other concerns. Kian was gone. So, using Beatrice Toivo's close connection with the Feywilds, they headed into the Fey Spring Court. The Fey directed them to the creature, the Rusalka, that held Kian. She sat in her patch of old ruined machines and waters and strange dark mushrooms, and she wouldn't let Kian go. The battle wasn't easy, but in the end, our fools took Kian back. But before they left the Feywilds, Virgil heard a call. Familiar. A 3-tone whistle. Rowan Sterling's summons when times were hard on the battlefield, when he needed help. But he was nowhere to be found, of course. They all left the Feywilds, and there Ophelia parted. She had business with her family and business with the Winds. Seemed there was trouble up in Enosh, and the Winds' help was necessary. They were taking as many people as they could from the dangerous town to a small oasis, a patch of mysterious, guardianless safety in the oceans, though that little patch of land couldn't sustain a town for long. Enosh, remember the little island from the start, with the wall they tore down and built up and tore down again? The oceans had started rushing in, the guardian dead or gone. Was it our fool's fault? Maybe. But they had a sheriff to see, and they were caught in their deal. So Henry and his daddy handed over that rail line to Sheriff Donna and her wife, Maggie Brenna. Yeah, that Maggie. The one that Henry left at the altar. You could say it was awkward. But Maggie wasn't pissed enough to be truly cruel, and when Henry asked about using that line to help the people of Enosh, she agreed. So they headed up to Enosh and aided the Winds in bringing the Enosh peoples to that little patch of safety, but they all knew it wasn't enough. These folk needed a proper island and a proper guardian. So, to appeal to the leader of the powerful Phoenix Island, Commander-in-Chief Terran Nevane, the fools next headed to Dawning. Yes, the place from which Virgil Flores was exiled. He donned a disguise, and it worked well enough until Rowan Sterling saw him. Rowan Sterling, who Virgil thought to be long gone or lost, suffering in the oceans like he did, was there, his long hair cut short, dressed in finery and marching in the parade of honor before the spring festival, wearing an orange earring that looked much like the one Virgil had been wearing all these years, and standing amongst the other commanders of Dawning, the new Dawn Shepherds, and each was wearing a gem of Rowan and Virgil's fallen comrades. Rowan recognized Virgil right away. He kept it hush-hush, though, and at the spring ball they had a chance to talk while the other fools worked on appealing to Terran Nevane. He'd had the past year and a half to recover. He was only then finally well enough to return to his position. They put far too much work in him to let him go. And he thought Virgil left without wanting to see him again after what he'd done, after the lives he'd taken, the lives of their friends. He also said that Nico had tried to kill him, maybe because she lost her mind in the oceans, or maybe because she hated evidence of her failure. She was considered dangerous. And she was not allowed outside the island borders. Virgil admitted he had seen Nico and that her story was different. Rowan warned him that she knew how to manipulate a tale. Rowan warned him that he could find himself in heaps of trouble if he was discovered here, and insisted he sneak himself right back out. The reunion was not as warm as lovesick Virgil would have hoped. The other fools had business to take care of too. Henry found a scholar amongst the new Dawn Shepherds, Commander Umbra. She seemed interested in helping out with researching that curse of his, so long as he shared his ocean's findings with her. Kian went to tell his visiting mentor, Kara Elia, some important little updates to his life, things she had missed in the past 7 years. Things like being cursed with the bite of a vampire. Things like walking a new career path, and separating themselves from the representatives of Rusul. She was heartbroken. Ox and Henry went off on their own to have dinner. Ox didn't know what to expect. Romance, perhaps? Henry ordered for the table and handed back the piece of the gun he'd been lording over Ox since they met. And they both confessed their feelings for each other. Friendship, they said. This is friendship. Right? After the ball, they met up again, shared what they learned, and then it was time for Virgil to go to the Phoenix grounds to beg for another chance from Commander-in-Chief Nevane, with his new friends behind him for support. Mr. Henry Goodlove didn't seem to realize just how determined Virgil was to stay with Rowan, no matter the demands Nevane placed on them. So, though they did not want to, they agreed to work for Nevane. Nevane put them to work right away. They sent them down to Freya to clear a quickly worsening patch of oceans. They promised they would send the Enosh refugees there when the new space opened up under protection. Odd, isn't it, that they didn't arrest Virgil right on the spot? Seemed Rowan still held on to his love for Virgil, and his trust. And his influence as new commander-in-chief had weight. But Nevane still wanted to keep an eye on them, so Commander Sterling joined the Fools on their mission down to Freya. On the train ride down, Rowan revealed that he still had Virgil's gem, tucked away, hidden on a chain beneath his shirt, so Nevane could not take it. They believed it missing or taken by Virgil. He revealed that the gem he wore was created by Nevane. He revealed that that golden-orange gem he wore on his ear was created by Nevane, who had gone through the trials. Rowan struggled with the want to be close and the need to stay away, afraid, lonely. But he managed to give Virgil something for the souls they shared. You see, Rowan was half Aasimar. Virgil woke one day to find he could see in the darkness. Rowan may not have intended to gift him the traits of an Aasimar, but I'm sure he didn't regret it. Not one bit. But there wasn't as much time as they hoped to mend their relationship. The train was attacked by a monster, sent by a group of bandits. You know what those bandits called themselves? The Winds of Change. And you know who they said their leader was? Scar. Yeah, that Scar. Ox's sister. They didn't catch sight of her, but something seemed to be up with Ox during that fight. His reflection acted strange, there and then gone. He leapt off the side of the train, under the control of some other force. It's a frightening thing having a sister. But, though battle-worn, they made it to Freya and headed out on their mission. And that's where 4 fools finally became 5, and they met Kirit Passeri. Kirit was wandering the oceans, afraid to return home until he found help with his condition. A werewolf problem. Suspicion told the other fools to keep friends close and enemies closer, and they let him join them. And headed off to the dangers beneath the earth. The ruins there. Something was odd. They looked just like Paradise Prison. The fools headed inside. They found books of ancient celestial texts, mostly about the stars, with lots of maps. And these maps had a pattern to them. The places circled on the earth mirrored important stars above. This place, for example, where they stood, mirrored a major star called the Falcon. There are books about vampires, too. And they found a note about leaving the place alone. They heard my voice. I've got a connection there, still, somehow. They found a room with a reflective pool, the key to enter onwards, but it only reflected some of them, Henry, Kian, and Virgil. They found a greenhouse. It's full of dark mushrooms that they realized had been farmed with blood, dried in the soil. And they found something else, or someone else. It seemed to them like the people who used to run these ruins trapped it there. A fallen star. The Falcon. And the Falcon looked just like Kian. Aylin's voice begged Kian, commanded them to stay away, and Kian didn't listen. The Falcon reached for him, and the skin of his arm turned deep gold until he let go, and it grasped again, desperate. It was cursed, vampiric. It wasn't its fault. You're mine, it told Kian. You are mine. Aylin, enraged, abandoned Kian there for disobeying. A punishment from a young celestial can be harsh. Kian's magic began to fail, and the Falcon fought. But Virgil, a soldier, hardened, was there and killed it. He killed the star. And that meant he got a wish. He wished for an old friend back. A lost shepherd, murdered by Rowan Sterling, named Errol Strauss. He was reborn from its power, but their soul wasn't quite right, their gem missing, held by one of the new Dawn Shepherds up in Dawning. So, they came back a vampire, and joined the Fools. But Errol recognized more of them than just Virgil. He insisted that he and Mr. Henry Goodlove were longtime friends. The thing was, Henry didn't remember them in the slightest. Virgil realized then that when Commander Nico visited him earlier, she didn't seem to mention the other shepherds at all, as if the other shepherds had vanished from everyone's memory too. There was one more incident in this already fraught mission. The strength of the ocean and the strange power emanating from this place, well, it wore on Rowan Sterling. Henry went off alone to bother him as he tried to cool down, and Rowan turned and attacked and nearly killed him. So he kept his distance after that. It was proof, he said, that he was still dangerous. It was proof that his recovery was not as much of a success as he'd hoped. So when they returned to Dawning, he turned himself in. They also discovered on their return that Nico, thanks to Virgil's loyal report, had been caught. He went to talk with her once more, but she was different. Her mind broken, not herself. But in a moment of clarity, she slipped him her hair comb. Embedded on one side was the white gem of Triumph Rain, the first lost shepherd, who died before the rest, on a battlefield. A terrible incident only 6 months into their journeys. Keep this, she insisted, and hold it close. She knew she'd probably be bound to die for her crimes. Then Henry went to talk to Commander Umbra again and showed her their findings. The mushrooms interested her in particular. They were what Nevane had used to make the tincture for the Dawn Shepherd trials. But they thought them all gone, used up. Don't give these to Nevane, she said. Let's put you through the trials, though maybe not through them. I don't quite trust them, just like you. But I can help you with the trials, you'll be fine. You've got some celestial about you. That'll keep you safe. All the shepherds have something like that. Fey blood, celestial. Something to keep them alive when the trials try to kill them. Celestial. That was news to Henry, though she seemed certain. You do, she said, and I have some friends to connect you with for these trials, but first you should go report to Nevane. Before that, there was a visit from Aelin. They offered Cian their powers back for a price. Kill Lachlan and everything will be just fine. Just kill him. Cian refused. They loved him, and love him still. Aelin's punishment grew harsher, and they let Cian, the Aasimar, finally fall. A Dhampir no longer, Cian was a vampire. So, the fools met Devane without the hesitant curate, nor Cian, who had gone to who knew where. They told Nevane vague truths, that they had found a creature and killed it. And Nevane was interested. Too interested for the fools' liking. Nevane asked, then demanded that the fools work for them and tell them all they knew. They wanted to know the ruins, the fallen star, who, why, how. They wanted to find more, because there were more places like this, they were sure of it. They acted desperate. They showed the fools what the Phoenix asked of them in return for its protection, their body beneath their robes, burned terribly. They insisted they were only following the Phoenix will. They whispered that everything they do is underneath that gaze. They revealed that their elven nature is false, that they were once a human and now a Dhampir like Cian was, thanks to their connection with the celestial Phoenix. They wanted them to find more of these strange places in the oceans, the dangerous, deep, dark places, and the odd pockets of safety. They wanted them to bring back more of these blood-fed mushrooms. They wanted to create more Dawn Shepherds, differently, somehow, and they needed help and understanding to try again and do it right. Virgil was disgusted. Nevane was unfazed. What all this desperation meant was unclear to the fools, but they knew they didn't like coercion, stubborn as they are. The meeting was interrupted by some news. Cian Lynos had died. Yes, our Cian Lynos. The fools returned to Henry's home in a state of disbelief and horror. And then, you know who showed up? Kian. You see, Kian had also found a familiar face in Dawning. Up on stage, playing a banjo like nothing had gone wrong. Lachlan. Only now he went by Jacques. His voice had changed to the accent of Suilis, a continent across the sea, to the west. He was a part of the winds of change, he said, and he didn't recognize Kian at all. But, well, Kian has a pretty face, and Jacques had a hold still on the forget-me-nots Kian had gifted him back in somewhere. Maybe some piece of memory remained. But memory or not, Kian charmed him nice and easy. So the death had been a ruse, performed publicly with the help of Jacques to get out from beneath Snowvane's watchful eye. They'd walk around in disguise from then on, as a perfect plan, they thought. No one will suspect. Virgil reacted with anger. What was he to do, turn away from Kian and his friends to work with a commander he hated just to stay at Rowan's side? Stay with the fools and leave Rowan behind again just to escape from Navane's grasp and maybe, someday, pull Rowan from their grasp too? Maybe, his friends insisted, with their help. Please, they asked Virgil. Navane will not let you go once they have you. So, Virgil visited Rowan in his room in the healer's ward and promised that his leaving would not be forever. And they left. Outside of the island, Henry decided to go through with that knockoff Dawn Shepherd's trial with Umbra's friends, Dalen and Dimitri. The two weren't fans of the Goodloves. It turns out those rail lines were built through homes and lands that didn't want to be touched. Homes like Dalen's and Dimitri's themselves. And it turns out the workers on those lines were not always treated so well. Henry didn't seem to have known that. Well, they helped him anyways. They're good men. They gave him a tincture made of the mushrooms the fools had found in the Falcon's strange paradise ruins, and they killed him. Yes, that's the trials. Anyone who goes through them must be killed. But with that tincture, he didn't die like Virgil had experienced in his own trials. And he woke with a gem of his own, lilac purple. And with that ocean's curse that had been spreading across his body faltered. So, one problem solved, in a sense. The fools needed to regroup and plan what was next. Ophelia used the Wandering Winds caravan to take them down to an oasis outside of somewhere where Ox had an old friend named Georgette. Along the way, Kirit and I had a chat up on the roof. He showed me one of the mushrooms they'd found. It had been a long time since I'd seen one of those. Together we helped it grow. Their journey was safer with those fungi growing beneath the carriage, protecting them from the oceans. They couldn't last forever, but they got them where they needed to go. And then Ophelia left them there and took off with Errol Strauss in tow. And Georgette greeted them all to her home in the oasis. This oasis, they realized, was marked on their star-reflecting map. They wondered. They decided to take a rest. And then overnight, it flooded. Yes, that's right, the desert flooded after Kian decided to visit their celestial parent in a dream. Eliok, the celestial guardian of Rusul, claimed they were not his child. No, they were the Falcon's child, not his, and Kian woke from this nightmare to a flood. Amongst this flood, they found coins. These coins weren't like the gold and silver exchanged at a saloon. They had a hint of celestial about them, like the strange mushrooms that they keep finding. It seemed reason enough to investigate. They found a tunnel, went inside, and in there was a casino. It looked much like that mirrored paradise of Freya. They found a greenhouse for those blood-eating fungi and another room that was marked as the place of the fallen North Star. The fallen North Star, Vivienne was her name, I recall. Vivienne, like the vampire that changed Lachlan. Oh, and I should mention, I don't know why, but Kirit decided to try eating one of those mushrooms they've been finding around. I do call them fools for a reason. He's changed now, but at least he and I can talk much easier. Anyways, the casino. Yes, a casino down there. And the machines, the slot machines, they were connected to tanks. Through the haunting memories that lingered in that place, they discovered that it had been used to attempt to create something. New celestials, maybe, or guardians, maybe. Something that combined the souls of captured celestials and the blood of people on Earth and made an egg that could birth a new sort of being. And they saw signs of a child that looked much like Ox was amongst the sketches and notes they found there. That didn't seem possible with all the time that had passed. But if he was a little egg out there in the oceans, perhaps it had simply taken that long to hatch. They took one of those machines up to the surface with them in the bag of holding, and waiting for them they found Scar and the Winds of Change. You see, Kian and Jacques, or Lachlan, had been communicating through Kian's familiar, Marigold, who took quite a liking to Jacques. And Kian had welcomed their presence, which meant they welcomed the rest of the Winds of Change. Scar, Jacques, Leaf, Finn, and Mela. Young Mela, with her motorbikes and tough exterior, seeming to have grown by years in only a few months. Jacques made sure the peace was kept and no shots were fired, and Scar seemed interested in working with the fools, if they were finding themselves working against powers like Navain. First, though, they had to take care of Ox. He was being watched in that body of his. Yes, watched. It turned out that Wily Volt tattoo artist wasn't as trustworthy as they'd hope. The tattoos had spells in them, spells to spy and to control, perhaps to keep him under Sheriff Donna's watch. But why would he be of interest to her? Scar scoffed at that question, shook her head. You don't want to know, she insisted, but you're going to have to do something about those if we're to associate with each other. Luckily, they had just discovered a way to make a new body. Using his soul and a coin in those strange incubating slot machines, Ox grew a new body from his soul, and Scar took over the old one as if she had never been real at all. She seemed real excited about this, like she wanted it all along. His tattoo from N, the third member of the Clibborn crew, his long-gone partner, remained faintly with him. Maybe they were a part of his soul. Well, luckily, those weren't the ones with the spell to watch him. Before leaving somewhere, the fools broke into Sheriff Donna's office and stole the paperwork she had on Ox, and Navain, and confirmed their suspicions that she was the one who'd been spying on them the whole time, keeping an eye on Oxalis Camphor through those tattoos. They found papers on Ox's old group, the Clibborn crew, though some of those pictures were just him and N. Scar was nowhere to be seen. In fact, there was little mention of a twin at all. As for Navain, it seemed as if they and Donna didn't quite see eye to eye. There was evidence that they had not known of the painful effects that the Dawn Shepherd's program would have and refused to share what they had researched until it proved itself less dangerous. So surprise to Virgil, who believed they didn't give a shit. They found an angry letter, yes, angry, from the emotionless Navain, about the abuse of the Paradise prisoners forced to work on the rail line. Unexpected from such a villain, wasn't it? But Virgil had spent too long in hatred to pay that much mind. Well, good or bad, they were free from Navain. Free to continue with their lives unwatched, right? Free to go to those places Navain wanted before Navain could get their hands on them? Sure, but first Ox had some business to take care of. He wanted closure, to see Wily one more time, to get important tattoo designs from him so he could get them again from someone else, maybe, someday, someone who wouldn't lie. How could the other boys say no to Ox? Maybe they should have. Ox got caught nearly meeting up with Wily in prison. Again, the bag of holding and Keen's familiar saved the day, and Ox got out with Wily, though Wily hadn't even asked for that. Didn't give him much choice. The guards saw them, and they flew off. But the prison had been a place of safety for Wily, he said. Well, maybe Wily deserved it for what they'd done to Ox. And then they escaped. Well, they didn't quite escape. You thought it would be that easy? That wasn't some jailhouse, that was Paradise Prison, and it doesn't let its workers go. The devil, guarding it somewhere, caught them on their way out. It seemed they caught the devil's eye. Make a deal with me, the devil said. Use what Navain has told you and what you've learned and report right back to me. All I want is to get a few souls out of my way, and I can continue to till the earth, to control fate, to spread these rail lines across the lands. And if you help me, you're welcome to join. The fools didn't know what to do. So, ever friendly, the devil gave them some time. To prove their helpful intent, they even aided them in reaching the fool's next curiosity. There was a place Navain had marked on a map, another haven, a place of safety, in the middle of the oceans. It sat beneath a great black mushroom cap. Kirit had some control over the place, of course, mushrooms growing here and there from beneath his feet in webbing lines, and created a tunnel for them to make their way through to reach the ruins beneath. But the ruins in this place could hardly be called ruins. They were perfectly preserved. There they found evidence of the experiments conducted on Celestials. They found a picture. The picture had the devil in it, though much more human, when they were known as Daniel S. Dickens. It had someone who looked like me in it too. And others. Many others. The researchers from this place. And outside, monsters waited. Doppelgangers, some might call them. Only a couple. And the story continues from there down the track, like a train, like fate, right? Fate. So much of this is about fate. Those researchers, those people of old, before the downfall, they wanted to take control of fate. They knew their world mirrored the sky above, with great fungus bodies growing from the earth like constellations. They thought if they tore down the stars and made them their own, maybe they could. And I helped them, didn't I? Me, Lo, your narrator here on this train. I was there, and I didn't stop the world from crumbling. Now the stars are falling, and these poor fools are caught up in it all. And all that's so big when all they want is so small. Or not small, but simple. Maybe. Henry to take back his family business and change it to something good. Kian to grow old with Lachlan at her side. Virgil to find peace with Rowan at his side. Kirit to go home, unburdened by fear of a curse. Ox to be his own person, unbound by the pain of his past. And all that's fair to ask for, isn't it? Why shouldn't they have it? Maybe they will someday. Who's to say? Who is to say?
Oh, the falcon was a pretty bird, wondered as she flew. She danced around and pranced around wherever the warm winds blew. And the falcon was a pretty bird. Her voice was always still. But men with drums and men with guns, they taught her how to kill. Her eye was on the sparrow, her mind was on the deaf, but no one cared and no one dared to speak to her aloud. Her eyes are always hooded, her teach her not to feel. Go build you a log cabin on a mountain so high, and hear the feather or birds yell as she goes screaming by. She'll tease you and she'll please you. She'll satisfy your needs, but someday she